Welcome back. Ruth Fazal here again, and wanting to just share a little about this next portion of Oratorio Terezin. A very dramatic portion in many ways, and the music is a bit more dramatic, but it starts with the song that is maybe the most simple. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear a very familiar little melody in there halfway through as he goes la 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 la. It's as much as it goes. But I really wanted to portray a small child. This poem is so poignant. It's also by František Bas, born September 1930, deported to Terezin, December 1941, and died in Auschwitz in 1944. He was only 14 when he died. So he was somewhere between the age of 11 and 14, probably less, when he wrote this poem. The poem goes like this: a little garden, fragrant and full of roses. The path is narrow and a little boy walks along it. A little boy, a sweet boy, like that growing blossom. When the blossom comes to bloom, that little boy will be no more. What a thought. What a thought for 11, 12-year-old boy, thinking about blossom, thinking about roses, and then thinking that the life of those roses and the blooming of those roses is probably going to be after that little boy is gone and will no longer be alive. And there's a sense at the end of the song you'll hear, and the music just kind of fades out, just like the flowers at the end of their lives, but this time it's the little boy and the memory of him even, but thankfully able to bring back the memory of him in this piece. The next movement is probably the most, it's dark in a sense. It's from Jeremiah. And the prophet sings, "Hark, the cry of my poor people from far and wide in the land. Is not the Lord in Zion? Is her king not in her? The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved." And then, for the hurt of my poor people I am hurt. This is the role of the prophet. The role of the prophet as he sings that. For the hurt of my poor people I am hurt. I mourn, and dismay has taken hold of me. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then has the health of my poor people not been restored? Oh, that my head were a spring of water, and my eyes a fountain of tears, so that I might weep day and night for the slain of my poor people. This particular portion of scripture was the last portion that I added into the text of Oratorio Terezin. I think I may have told this story before, but it was when I was putting the text together, and I was down in Kansas City, and I was at the House of Prayer. The House of Prayer before it was as big as it is now. It was just in a little trailer, and it was very intimate there somehow, something very special about it. And I was spending most of my time while I was there in the House of Prayer, while the worship and prayer was all going on. And I was really just allowing the Lord to speak to me and help me get this portion, get this whole section together. And something was just really bothering me on the inside. I don't really know what it was, or God, I knew God was speaking to me. And I was feeling very restless, and I finally left the house of prayer and went back to where I was staying with my friends. And have you ever had that feeling when you really you want to cry, but there are no tears, nothing comes out, which is interesting because that was very similar to what I felt when I took my violin and played in Terezin. And I felt that the music was taken away from me, that I had nothing to play. There was no spontaneity, there was no song in me. And in this instance, as I was sitting in the house of prayer and wanting to pray, but wanting to cry, but there were no tears. And it was just like a bottle being stopped up. I went back to my friend's home and I walked in the door and she said to me, "What's going on? What's happening?" So I described to her what it was. We sat and we talked a little bit, we prayed a little bit. And finally I went back to the house of prayer. And I walked in and I opened up my Bible and it fell open at Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 18. And I was reading right through to 9, verse 1. And this is what I read. "Oh, that my head were a spring of water, and my eyes a fountain of tears, so that I might weep day and night for the slain of my poor people." You know, the role of an intercessor, to stand in that place, that I might weep day and night for the slain of my poor people. I'm not a very good intercessor. I'm not one of those ones that locks myself in my prayer closet and prays and weeps and all of those things. For me, the intercession takes place when I write music, and that's when God takes me into his heart. I knew as soon as I read those words, I knew, and it was just like that stopped up bottle just flowed in my spirit, and something was released, and I knew that this was a key verse in the oratorio. So that's really why that piece is there, that portion is there, because I feel that as we listen to this piece, as we engage our hearts with the text of the poems and with the text of the scriptures, that this really is about allowing ourselves to feel God's heart. And it is something we have to allow. It's not about making ourselves feel it. It's not about going, "Oh, I got to feel it. No, it's about allowing God's heart to so touch our own hearts that we will weep for the things that cause him to weep. That we will love those things that he loves. And for me, my experience has been that his people Israel are completely at the center of his heart. And if I enter into his heart, it is impossible for me not to be touched by his absolute love, compassion, passion, commitment, faithfulness for his people Israel. So that's really what I wanted to share with you about from this portion. There are other passages. There's another poem that talks about longing for soft hands to shield the eyes from all the horrors that stare by day. I can only imagine. And then that cry comes out actually from the choir, from Lamentation chapter 5. Why have you forgotten us completely? Why have you forsaken us these many days? Restore us to yourself, O Lord, that we may be restored. Renew our days as of old, unless you've utterly rejected us and are angry with us beyond measure. Isn't this a question? Can it ever come to the point when God utterly rejects us? I don't think so. Restore us to yourself, O Lord, that we may be restored. And just that asking that question, unless you've utterly rejected us and are angry with us beyond measure. I totally believe that he has not rejected his people. His faithfulness is firm toward his people Israel. And it ends with a song about a child remembering his old house, again by the same child. This child, František Bass, was clearly very talented in writing, talking about the house that he left behind, and he's thinking about it. It was so nice, he says. Now it's deserted, rotting in silence. What a waste of houses, a waste of hours. Wow. And then the final verse in this section. See, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious, and whoever believes will not be put to shame. This is from Isaiah. God has a solution. God has a plan. And he begins to unfold it. So bless you as you listen to this next portion of Oratorio Terezin. I hope that it will touch your heart as it touched mine in the writing of it. And bless you all. See you on the next portion. Bye-bye.
Like a dismay has taken hold of me. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician here? Why then has the health of my poor people not been restored?